What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Thomas Galgani Show. My name is Thomas Galgani. Today is Cinema Saturday, so you know what that means. We're going to be talking about a movie or a show that was meaningful to me in some way. Today, I'm going to briefly talk about Reptile. It's a 2023 film directed by Grant Singer, and it stars Alicia Silverstone, Benicio del Toro, Justin Timberlake, Michael Pitt, and a lot of other big cast members, to be honest. And I think that, this was just a really cool flick for me. I really enjoyed it. It was the first time in a while where I was kind of caught off guard by some of the elements. It's a crime thriller, and full disclaimer, right off the bat, I'm going to be getting into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, go check it out. I can't really discuss why I liked it so much without spoiling it. So that's why I'm just going to come right out of the gate with these spoilers. And to be honest, moving forward, I think a lot of these Cinema Saturday episodes are going to be with spoilers even from the beginning, because that's kind of what these are meant to be. Actually, is I'm not really interested in kind of recapping, giving almost a teaser, because even in my experience, I feel like teasers can kind of ruin films. I like to just have a very general, broad idea of what a film is about and then go see it. That's how I personally like to enjoy the films. And so this is supposed to be for your entertainment, and hopefully you get something out of it as well. And I'm going to talk about the film itself as a film, from the perspective of it being an art form, as well as kind of what I think that is the importance of it, and kind of what it means to me, how it applies to the real world. Because I also feel like movies in particular have a lot of messages, hidden messages behind them, if they're not even overt, So right from the top, like I said, this stars Benicio del Toro. This is one of my favorite movies of his that I've seen. I've always been a fan of his, by the way. And Justin Timberlake, man, he's been making some cool stuff. There was another film that he was in that I thought was really, that he was really great in, and we're not here to talk about that one. I don't know, for some reason the name is blanking on that one, but it's when he basically kind of adopts a younger boy and kind of protects him. And if you happen to know the name of that, feel free to leave it in the comments. But I feel like he's a pretty good actor, honestly. The cinematography in this movie is good. A lot of the editing. One of the editing effects that stands out to me is a sound bridge, when there's a moment where it goes from one of the characters punching a wall and that sound to then it cuts to a picture of Benicio del Toro sleeping, and then he's kind of woken up, and it turns out that that's from contractor, that the sound in his scene where he is just the contractors banging on the house. And I thought that was just a brilliant type of transition, and sort of warping the audience's perception of reality. A good example of that also being done is in The Matrix, when they're towards the beginning of the movie, where they're in a club, and then you hear kind of the beats and the bass of the club music, and then that bridges into the sound of his alarm clock the very next morning right away. And so that's kind of how a sound bridge can be used. I thought that this one, for example, was even cooler. I shouldn't say cooler. What am I talking about? The Matrix was epic, obviously. So it was not cooler. It was just different. And this movie overall provided a really cool kind of eerie feeling. One of the effects was at the end that really stands out, where the technique of breaking the fourth wall was used. And that's basically where an actor or a character can be used in literature as well, where they're addressing the audience directly. And this can be done either by, like in theater, for example, like looking out into the crowd, especially making eye contact with somebody in the crowd, or it could even be, you know, them interacting with that, but in film, it's them looking at into the camera. And in literature, even if you're addressing the audience directly, it still counts as kind of breaking the fourth wall. And the idea behind this is, you know, it allows the audience to kind of feel more involved in the picture. And I feel like too, it's supposed to catch your attention and almost force you to make a judgment call on what's happening or what is about to happen. And at the end of the film, they do this where it was one of the craziest scenes where there's a lot of corruption involved with these cops, and he goes to this house with the chief of police where he has told the chief of police about this corruption, and he feels like he's on his side, and we're like, hey, we're going to have a talk with you. Let's go upstairs. The other guy, the chief of police, goes to the bathroom, and then the guy who he believes is totally corrupt, that they feel like they're going to have to arrest, he turns and looks at him, at Benicio del Toro, but at this point he's looking at the camera, so he breaks the fourth wall, and then he says, you gave them the drive, the hard drive. So that was the big thing that happened, was he gave a flash drive that had revealing evidence, that had very, very damning evidence against these other police, these other corrupt cops that he had been working with. So he gives that to the chief of police, and the guy goes like, you gave them the drive, like, you got to get out of here. They're going to kill you. And it was such a creepy scene. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that. You know from the beginning that something's not right, and everybody's kind of in on different things. I personally didn't expect the chief of police. But with that being said, the movie overall kind of leaves a lot of open loops, in my opinion. Like Michael Pitt, Michael Pitt's character they just sort of leave it open. I thought he was one of the best characters in the whole movie, and they kind of lead you to believe that he's either killed or subdued in some way. He's probably killed by somebody who's working with Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake is basically this corrupt real estate agent, and they leave you to think that he didn't know about his fiance. I think she was still his fiance, because she was technically still married. It's just such a crazy series of events. She's brutally murdered. A lot of creepy details and how that kind of goes down. And I was not suspecting him at all, even though maybe I should have, because everything is right with him. And so it's like the other guy, Michael Pitt's character, I knew he would be too obvious, right, to be the main criminal. However, I was still not suspecting Justin Timberlake to be the bad guy. And it was crazy. You know, it's just one of those movies where I won't say it was a great film, but there were definitely some great parts in it, because the story definitely had some flaws in it, some kind of open loops, especially for how long the film was. And one of my biggest problems with this, I will say, was the dream sequence. I think they had more than one, but one in particular was Benicio del Toro has a dream that he goes to look at a house. It's right after he goes and talks to Justin Timberlake in a restaurant where he happens to see him. And then he basically finds out that he's on to Justin Timberlake, and he like calls the number that had called him, and then it's Justin Timberlake's phone, or some other phone number. But regardless, it was Justin Timberlake's phone that was it. The fact that it was his phone number revealed that he was in on it, and kind of he reveals, like, lets him know, like, hey, you're going to get that or something like that. And Justin Timberlake turns around and shoots him. And then he wakes up from a dream. It's just a bad dream. I have to say that I am not a big fan. I'm not a fan at all of this effect, because it goes against the rule that we want our audience to believe that this is the world they're in, right? And if we keep showing all of this crazy stuff and then we're really like, oh, just kidding, it's a dream, I really don't like that. I really don't. It makes them feel like, well, why am I on the edge of my seat for anything if it can just be a dream? The only time I personally didn't mind this was in a show like The Sopranos, where they showed the dream sequences to be obviously dreams most of the time, where it was a really weird, there were really strange sequences, like they get in a small car, he says something and then everybody ignores him, and just all these weird things. So it's like obvious, it's clearly a dream. But in something like this, where I feel like it's disloyal to the audience. It's not. You're supposed to, one of my favorite ways of looking at filmmaking and art in general is like, hey, this is not supposed to be realistic per se. And some cops, for example, might hate this movie, just like, if it's your profession that's being portrayed in a movie, you might hate it because it's not accurately portraying the profession. And that's fine, because you're talking about real people, even if it's like fictionalized characters. And I don't mind people criticizing films for not being realistic, especially if they have some sort of personal tie to whatever profession or event that's being portrayed in the movie, even if it's fictionalized. However, it's not the real world. It's the artist's creation. And we consume movies not to be educated, even though I do think they educate us. We watch them to go into this other world. And, when we have these crazy dream sequences where it's like, oh man, yeah, you killed me. Just kidding, it's a dream. Anyways, I could go on all day about that. Feel like I've covered that. I was just, and there was one other part too that I haven't really heard any talk about, and I haven't heard anybody talk about, which was he sees his wife kind of flirting with the contractor of his house, who had been working on the house. And then he sees him at their dance place where it's like a Southern style, it's like square dancing or something. And the guy shows up, and then he's like, oh, why is this guy here? Benicio del Toro. And his wife goes away, and then he's talking to the guy, and he basically comes out right away and confronts him and says, like, basically saying, I'm going to kill you if I catch you, if you end up, getting with my wife, if you seduce her or anything like that. And I feel like the point of that scene was to show that this guy was not going to take anything. And I'm saying that was kind of showing that the character was not going to tolerate that he was still going to protect what he valued, which was his marriage. And he was also not afraid to kind of step out of line, because he even says to the guy, like, are you willing to die for this, and saying like, hey, I'm going to actually kill you. Not like, hey, you better not do this, but like, no, I'll kill you if you do this. So just a lot of interesting kind of character development moments there. I feel like not even necessarily character development, but kind of revealing to the audience what kind of protagonist are we dealing with here. And that leads me to kind of my overall feeling of the film, what I feel like, kind of what I took away from it on a personal level, which was two things. One, the importance of recognizing peer pressure, that it's not always a bad thing. Okay. It can be good or bad. Obviously, that's why, it matters who you spend your time with, of course. Peer pressure can be a good thing, just like in sports. If, a coach is having the whole team run over and over again because of the mistake of one player, and it was a careless mistake, or maybe they stayed out late, or they were late to practice, something like that. The rest of the team is going to get on the case of that one player. They're going to harass him, right, and make him get his stuff together. That's good peer pressure. There's nothing wrong with that. The bad peer pressure is all the obvious stuff too. Like, in this instance, the brotherhood of the police force, right? So he sees all of these other cops, doing this bad stuff, and a weak person. I will say that too, is that's kind of the point of this, is a weak person might even cross over and go along with that type of stuff. And even towards the end of the film too, especially, was he had to be particularly strong to go against these guys that he had known for years, that he had trusted his life with. And maybe they weren't completely, maybe they weren't always bad. There was probably a line that they had to cross at some point and become bad. I don't know. I don't even like looking at people as binary, good or bad. In this instance, in a lot of cop thrillers and stuff, I think you can make that case. And certainly movies like this, it's cool when they show, okay, it's good versus evil, even though there are all these gray areas. Back to my point, though, is it takes a strong person to keep their moral compass and basically do the right thing. And so that's what that was what I took away from the movie, was how suspenseful it was. It was fun to watch just because of all of these different the effects of it, and kind of the way the cast was honestly awesome. Alicia Silverstone, Justin Timberlake, and Benicio del Toro it was just a really interesting premise, and you have all of these cool little moments where he's also fascinated by the sink. He's fascinated by the sink in the one of the homes that he was looking at, the home of the crime scene, and a lot of cool elements there. So I think, but back to my point. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. I shot a wedding yesterday, and so my mind is kind of scattered here. I'm a little smoked, but running on caffeine, and this, I have to say, by far though, it was a fun movie though. So if you want to watch a movie, I recommend watching it at night. It's a fun one. And I think that that's the biggest takeaway though, is what I was saying about having to be a strong person, is because, keeping your moral compass, and then also trusting your gut instincts, and having people that you can actually turn to. In this instance, he was betrayed by the chief of police, right? He was wrong about that one, but he also had his wife, and he trusted his wife. So they were a great team together, and he basically kind of shared all of the evidence with her, and she almost helped him. She did help him kind of work on the case as well. So there were a lot of cool moments in there. She was very good at, she even defended herself from Michael Pitt's character, who broke into their house, or I think around the side or something like that, the side gate. And she held a gun on him before he came home. And there was a really eerie, just kind of the way that was done. I thought it was really well done. These points, I could jump around all day. So if you haven't noticed, I wanted to do this one off the cuff because this was also, it was just a really fun movie to watch. And I hope that if you have seen it, let me know what you think. I'm honestly, because I've heard so many mixed reviews on this one, but it was clearly well done. So a lot of those different effects in there, I think served their purpose, and the cast did a great job. I will definitely watch this director's their next movie, right? Screenwriter and director. If I had already liked this cast before, so but like I said, yeah. So I would probably give it maybe a 7 out of 10 if I had to, pick a rating like that. If we go down to 5, maybe 3 out of 5, to be honest. It was definitely a really good film, and a lot of cool elements in there that were great. But overall, for it to be a great film, I feel like a lot of those loops had to be closed, and then the story should have been tighter. That's my take on it, guys. Go check it out. if you haven't. But if you haven't, that means that you listen to this podcast without adhering to my recommendation of watching it first because of all the spoilers. So hopefully I didn't ruin it for you. But anyways, yeah, let me know what you guys think. And subscribe for more if you haven't already subscribed, just because, this is going to be improving as well. I want each episode to be better, and I'm going to be picking films that I think have an interesting message in them. And yeah, until next time, guys, have a good week.